Yo,
Yo, yo, yo.
Hey everybody, welcome to episode. Is this 10 or is it
I think
9?
so. I think it's 10.
Let me check. Yeah, welcome to episode 10 of the Bow and Aaron podcast. And today we have a special guest, Tom, who's our good friend. Um,
Longtime viewer,
Yo, yo, yo. That is me.
longtime fan. We're actually doing some charity work for the Make-A-Wish Foundation. Tom's gonna die soon, and his wish is to get
he's
on the
gonna
Bone
die of
Aaron
being
podcast.
based. He's so based that he's just gonna die.
Super based. Death by
Yeah,
bastem.
But so before we start talking about anything, Bo, I went climbing yesterday for the first time.
dude, I also went climbing yesterday.
and
I did
I
not.
I climbed up four walls. I climbed up two of them pretty easy, but then the other two I got psyched. I got like up 60 to 70% of the way, and then got psyched out.
Were you doing like auto belay?
Yeah,
Nice. What
because
were they graded at all?
they were like V0 or V1 or something.
All the auto belays were graded in the V scale?
I mean, I think so. I don't know. I
Wait,
mean, they
you,
were
you
like,
had you had a harness that you clipped in and it was like the
yeah.
You know what I'm talking about? Okay. Yeah, usually those routes aren't graded in V, but I've never done auto or I
Oh, I
haven't
mean,
done auto
it said
belay
it
in
was like
recent history, so
the easiest level. So I mean,
yeah.
it's not like I.
No, that's cool, dude.
And
Did
then
you like it?
I tried some bouldering too. That shit is really hard.
Yeah, that's what I do exclusively. So I've recently I have some news for you guys. Oh, actually, I don't know if we've talked about it like in the Discord, but anyway, I'm taking a trip out to Yosemite this summer, hopefully if everything goes right.
Are you?
And yeah, dude, I'm gonna be going out there. And what I want to do is I'm gonna be taking revenge on Half Dome. So I'm gonna be hiking Half Dome, but I'm also gonna be doing some bouldering in the valley. So I've put together a training program, and I've been training really hard to try to get stronger at bouldering. And I've been noticing small improvements, but I've been hitting. So there's this thing called the moon board, which is basically like maybe 30-degree overhanging board with pretty good holds, but there's like LEDs under them, and you connect your phone, and you like put the different boulder problems up there. And usually the holds are like pretty far apart, so you're doing these big moves and like sticking to the board because it's so overhanging. So I've been training on that and getting like a bit more powerful. Bagged two more V4s, and I'm working actually maybe three more V4s depending on what this other one gets graded. It's not graded yet, and I've been working on another one that's pretty hard. But
And
I've
for
been
reference,
training
it
a
goes
lot.
V0 to V9, correct?
Well, I don't know why you would arbitrarily stop at V9, but like yeah, it would. In ascending order, it gets harder, and I think like I think I saw somewhere people were saying basically every time it goes up a grade, it gets I don't know if it gets like 1.5 times harder or like twice as hard,
So it's
but
like a
it gets
log
like
scale or something.
yeah, it gets like exponentially harder. And I think the hardest outdoor established boulder problem right now, I believe, is somewhere in the V16 or V17 range, which
Now,
is
let
like
me ask a
ridiculous.
question. Now, you say bouldering. I don't know very much about climbing. Now, what is that? Just
So
climbing on
bouldering
boulders, like
Like
is
you don't
no
have a
height,
rope or
like
ropes.
height
anything.
wise. Like, what are we looking at?
Basically, imagine anything that you would be comfortable climbing on and falling off of onto one or more crash pads with a spotter without a
Okay,
rope. That's bouldering.
okay, gotcha. So
And
I didn't know if
even,
this was like 100-foot tall boulders or
I mean, I guess technically, so like at some point, there's a line between a high ball boulder and a free solo, like a sport climb free solo.
yeah.
So like
That's what Alex
sport
Honnold does, right? Is
climbing,
free
yeah,
soloing. Yeah.
yeah. But like in that documentary, that's a multi-pitch big wall. So a sport climb is typically just one pitch. And typically sport climbs, I might be talking out of my ass here, but I think typically sport climbs are shorter pitches than would be like a multi-pitch trad climb. But that might just depend on the circumstance. But anyway, on sport climbs, you use a rope and there's bolts in the rock, and you clip quick draws, which are they're basically just a carabiner with a bit of material to another carabiner, so it extends it out from the wall a bit, and then that's what you put your rope in, and you have a belayer down
Gotcha.
below, making sure that when you fall, they pull the tension and you don't hit the ground. So theoretically, you could go up a sport climb without a rope, but if it's a sport climb and it's called a sport climb, that would technically, quote unquote, be called a free solo of a sport climb. Now, if something's established as a boulder and it's graded as a boulder and people refer to it as a boulder, but it's like really high and you're like, puckering your ass when you're doing the last move topping out, that would just be a high ball boulder. And there's, like I said, there's probably a gray area kind of between what some people consider high ball boulders and like free solos because you don't want to fall off of like the last move of a high ball because you're
Not to
gonna
be
bust
confused with
yourself
the
up
whiskey
probably.
highball.
Yeah. But no, I've been training pretty hard and I've been feeling good. Been doing a lot of hangboarding, a lot of climbing, a lot of board work, trying to do the campus board, which is like just that thing that you did in gym class with the fucking pegs and you put it in the holes?
Yeah.
Imagine that, but you're just using like wooden holds. You're just going up a board like that with just your hands, no feet. So it's just training like explosiveness with your
Those
upper
climbing
body.
girls were pretty hot too. They're like hippie girls, but like athletic. I was like, all right, I can get into this.
You should chirp at them.
They were all there with their significant climbing other. I'm like, man.
Dude, I tell you what, this
Except
one
this one
time
chick, but she was like climbing like the hardest wall, and like she seemed pretty focused. I was like, eh.
there was this one time this climbing couple came into the gym, and I will never forget it because I don't know if it was the day that I threw out my shoulder, but it was round about the time that I threw out my shoulder and had to get surgery on it because the problem that I threw out my shoulder on was still up on the wall. So this couple comes in, the dude is just like his hands, all of his fingers look like Vienna sausages. Like they're just fucking massive. And the guy's like talking to me and some of the other dudes there and like one of the staff guys. He's like, yeah, I got like 170 pounds of grip strength in this hand and then like 187 in this hand. So I got like a slight imbalance. And then he goes up this one route without using his legs, just figure fours up the whole route. It was like this cave problem. And it's not that that was hard. Like I eventually did it. I'm like, oh, that's pretty cool. And it was especially cool because there's this other cave problem that just got set that's pretty similar, where using a figure four is actually advantageous. Usually it's just like a showboat move outside of ice climbing, but that's neither here nor there. So this guy then gets on the problem that I threw out my shoulder on, which is essentially, if you're familiar with men's gymnastics, specifically the rings, there's this move called the iron cross, where you're completely like 90 degrees shoulder abduction, and you're holding yourself there with no feet just by the strength of your like deltoid. So imagine that, except on two climbing holds essentially. You have no feet and you're just holding yourself
And then
there.
your A1C thingy tour or something.
Well, yeah, eventually that's what happened. But then when you're doing this iron cross move, you have to bring your right foot up to the same hold that your right hand is on, and then you can bring your right hand over to your left hand and then start to climb from there. But what this guy did is fucking turned this V4 problem, which was the first V4 I ever did, into like a V9, V10 problem by doing this like inverted mantle on it, and someone recorded it, and I would love to see that video because it's essentially just a ridiculous solution to a pretty simple problem. But then his girlfriend is she's climbing about, and she's this like really small, like couldn't be more than 103 pounds soaking wet sort of person, and she had these like little dainty piano fingers but could crimp like a motherfucker, dude. She could hang off of like two fingers on like a half pad crimp while chalking up with the other hand sort of thing. Like she
Dude,
was
yeah, I
just
was saying
so
some crazy
light
shit
that you
yesterday.
didn't
I was
have to
like,
have crazy grip strength.
yeah, that's some. I was like, there's definitely levels to this stuff.
Yeah, it's insane. Right now my goal is to improve my grip strength and technique at the same time, and hopefully I see gains.
I'm not very versed in the climbing world, so this is just kind of interesting to listen to. I don't know very much
Basically,
about it.
I mean, yeah, there's just I don't know. I know like a little bit, but
The basic
all I
idea
know is
about
that the girls were
climbing,
cute. That's all I know, to be
the
honest.
Sounds to
basic
me like you
idea
grab rock, go up.
Yes.
is you find a cool rock and you arbitrarily try to figure out the hardest way to get from the bottom to the top of it within your capabilities. That's about it. But, Aaron, I had a pretty cool topic that I was talking to Tom about. And I couldn't
Alright.
think of any more examples of this, but I was trying to think of things that are like societally normal that are like either deleterious or just completely useless. And the one that I thought of and this is like, I mean, a commonly debated thing in the permaculture community, but the idea of having and maintaining like a lawn instead of just like a natural habitat where your house is.
And what was the thing about it? It's societally normal, but it's like bad, or what was?
Yeah, because like think about a lawn. You have a monoculture of basically a useless grass. Like it bears no fruits. The root structure is pretty whimsy when you compare it to like actual prairie grass or wild grass, which is like goes 8 times deeper and prevents topsoil from eroding. So you're getting nothing out of your lawn. You're pumping toxic chemicals into the water system and beyond like arguably looking appealing, it just serves no purpose.
It serves the purpose of being a space of land that is relatively easy to maintain and is also aesthetically pleasing. So I think,
Well,
like
no, I would argue against the easy to maintain.
I think it's easier to maintain a patch of lawn than it is to maintain a miniature forest.
Oh, really? That you don't have to do anything to? You just watch it grow?
All right, Bo. So the first big storm that comes through, let me know what happens when you're peeling fucking 4 trees off of your roof.
Well, I mean, I think there's a difference between maintaining. I mean, we could call a natural habitat a forest for the sake of argument. Maintaining a forest around your house and allowing trees to grow in such a way that they're going to fall on your house. I mean, obviously, you can fell trees around your house without impacting the integrity of the environment you're trying to cultivate. But
Also, let me pose this from like a since I've been like house shopping, let me pose this from like a home buyer's perspective.
yeah,
Every single home that everybody has grass, and I mean that's the society normal part, but that's because it's easy to maintain. So like, how could I sell a house to somebody and say, oh, like it's super forested, like you're gonna have to really upkeep this and make sure it's up to code and everything. Nobody's gonna buy that house. It's gonna be worthless. So I'm gonna argue against the lawn specifically. The chemical part, I will say, is that part I can agree with you because it just goes into the water table or whatever. But
I'm gonna sit somewhere in the middle with this, and what I'm gonna go with is I can see how one could say it's more maintainable or aesthetically pleasing to look at. Like you have an area that's kind of open to do with as you wish. But on the other end, with what Bo said was like you would just kind of clear a small area around where nothing could fall and cause direct damage to your house during like a thunderstorm or whatever. But like having a woods itself, it requires no upkeep, no maintenance. You just kind of let nature do its thing. And it could still look very good.
and where I'll interject here is the whole philosophy of permaculture that there's no real there's no real upkeep because all the work that goes into it goes in the front end like research portion. You're trying to design a system in alignment with what would be there, bar any kind of drastic human intervention, right? What naturally wants to be there in terms of plant and animal species. And you figure out a way to say like, hey, I want the ones of these that can get me fruit and honey and meat and edible fungi and chicken, lettuce, flounder, and then you figure out a way to make those mingle together in a sustainable ecosystem, which at that point would require, given that it's well designed, no real work to upkeep minus, defending your however many square feet you want to, or
It
square
also gives you
yards,
the ability of
acres.
like self-sustainability to a degree as
Yeah,
well.
it gives you a backup, like a plan B if you're not like supply chain disruptions we've seen recently. That's a real threat. And a lawn's not going to be giving you a hedge against that, in my opinion.
I think one of the things that's like societally normal but is like super bad is like sitting down all day because that's like
Yeah,
actually bad for you.
I think a lot of the more hip companies are getting in touch with that and offering standing desk options for their employees. So I know at least like Fifth Third here, one of my buddies is working there doing programming, and he said everyone in his office is like standing.
But
I
yeah,
don't. I've
for
never
like
worked in a place where you need to do that, but I could see like if you threw a big enough fit about it for a while, that they would probably whoever you worked for would just get you a standing desk and kind
yeah.
of call it a day at
But that's,
that.
I mean, that's the thing. I mean, I guess as of like the last 5 years, it's kind of been turning. But I mean, think about like, if you're a desk worker in the last 20 years, you were sitting down so much. That's absolutely not good for you. So that's
Yeah,
my nomination for one of those things. That's like the
I feel
first
like
thing that popped into my head.
along similar lines there, Aaron, is like a complete ignorance in terms of like hearing what your body's saying and being able to like nip a problem in the bud with like stretching and like massage and stuff, or
Yeah, well,
cold
apparently,
heat.
like our medical culture, I don't know much about this, but basically the vast amount of funding at the beginning of like American modern medicine was for curing stuff like with medicine instead of preventing stuff. So before the doctor is gonna say, "Yo, do you need to do X, Y, and Z," they're gonna say, "Here, you need to take this pill." I mean, that's really oversimplifying it, but that's basically what our medical system is like, to my understanding. Because I mean, for example, for me, um, after I finished grad school, like I went to the doctor for a physical or whatever, and she was asking like the depression questions, and like I've I like had depression or whatever, and the doctor's like, all right, you want like this like fucking pill? Like I was like, I don't know, like I've literally talked to you for like 10 minutes about this. I don't think I want a pill that's gonna totally alter my brain. You know what I mean? So for me, anecdotally, I experienced the medicine first culture. I think what she should have said was like, okay, you need to do X, Y, and Z, or go to counseling, or something like that before I give you this life altering chemical. So
Yeah, but also depression is one of those things where it's like you want to definitely address it before you develop like suicidal ideations and stuff like that. So,
I mean,
I
that's just
could
one example,
see an
but like if
argument
I was
for
overweight, they would say, take a weight loss pill, or like I don't know, because I
I generally I've never seen like a general physical where the doctor comes out after like having given the patient overweight counseling or something without the patient receiving like a printout of 4 sheets of paper telling them how to eat healthy and work out, and then they just don't essentially. So then the intervention becomes like, okay, well, do we want this patient who's non-compliant with what the doctor's telling them to do to like sit here and still have high blood pressure, high cholesterol, and whatever, or should we try to lower that with like, hydrochlorothiazide or oh, what's the other one? Propanolol, metoprolol, and statins for cholesterol. So it's like, at that point where the patient's just not obviously not going
you're
to be
right,
working
you're
out and
right.
stuff.
But yeah, I
So
think
maybe that healthcare provider took like, a slightly aggressive approach and maybe, you know, didn't make the best clinical decision making there, but I don't know.
I think as humans, we're just naturally lazy. That's why we go for
no, that's
curing instead
100%
of,
true. Like
yeah,
again, I don't know if this is like BS or not, but like from a like an evolutionary standpoint, you need to conserve as much energy as possible because like you don't know when your next meal is coming, and you need to conserve energy for like hunting and doing stuff. So when you're not actively like pursuing something, like the default state is to be at like complete rest. But now
yeah.
in our culture, we have so much like abundance that like we're always full and we always want more food, and like we don't have to like struggle for survival anymore. So we're resting unless we force ourselves to move around. Um, so I mean, like the laziness is a survival trait, but it's just we solved the
Well,
problem that
for the food aspect though, it's a bit unfair to just characterize it as that because food has been engineered to be like hyper palatable and hypo satiating
oh,
essentially.
that's yeah. Well, I mean, like like I said, we solved our problem of not having enough food, and like food being
Yeah.
like
So then
raw
we've created
cow
new
liver.
problems.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah.
I could see it as why work to prevent when you could just do nothing and cure.
Yeah. I mean, that's why that's like another reason why we're like a pill first, I think,
Yeah.
or at least we're
But
more
and
likely to be pill first.
there's like also simplifying the medical system to that's a bit unfair too, because there's so many other factors in it. Like there's a lot of times where doctors try to do something, but like insurance won't cover it, and
Yeah,
you
the
know,
insurance system is apparently is extremely convoluted. My sister
yeah. So that
is
then
like in
you have this
pharmacy and she
situation.
has to deal with all that stuff on the daily, and it's like like some of these rules seem completely arbitrary.
Dude, I just went to the pharmacy today to get my Tdap vaccine so I can do shadowing because I was like a year or two overdue on that. So I'm sitting there waiting to go into the room and get it, and there's this guy up there that's like talking to the pharmacist and or the farm tech rather. And what was he getting? Um it might have been like hydrochlorothiazide or something. Anyway, he was getting a drug and then oh no, it was no, I forget what it was. Anyway, he was getting a drug and the guy's like, "Do you want the generic or the brand?" Oh no, I do remember what it was. It was Synthroid, levothyroxine. So he was getting this thyroid medication and I'm very familiar with this shit. I went to school for pharmacy, did my bachelor in it, and the guy is like talking to him about the brand name and the generic. So the generic is $6 and the brand name's like 136. And this guy's like seriously considering getting the brand name when his insurance isn't going to cover it. And the law in the US is that the generic equivalent has to have the active ingredient that the brand name has. It's usually a situation where like the patent's expired and they're allowed to make the generic now so they can just pump it out at a lower price. So it's the same shit and this guy just was ignorant to that fact. So this is like kind of insurance aside, but it's like the dude was seriously considering paying out of pocket $136 for probably like a month supply of this shit. And it's yeah. So there's some consumer ignorance too, but like the insurance aspect of it, I still just don't even fully understand.
I don't think
Is there
anybody
ever a
does
true
actually.
benefit for the name over generic or not? Not really.
No, there's no benefit. It's the same shit.
Unless
The
apparently
brand name's
probiotics
Synthroid.
probiotics brand is better, right? Is that true?
Probiotics, I don't know if there's any like FDA regulated probiotics. And honestly, I think a lot of probiotics, it's like they get killed in the stomach, so they don't really do much. And there's some companies that probably still don't have FDA oversight that have been like
Mm.
working to make like, essentially barriers to where the stomach acid doesn't fuck with the probiotics before they get to the
Uh,
large intestine and can like actually colonize. Because I mean, if you think about it, a probiotic's literally useless if it dies before it gets to the large
right.
intestine.
It defeats the purpose.
Yeah, so that's why prebiotics are, good because that's basically food for your already existing biotics, fiber essentially.
I thought of one more at least off the top of my head. So I'm gonna say TikTok. Specifically, well, there's two reasons. Number one is that it's always learning from you and making you watch more stuff. And like, I guess I've never like truly used the app. I've seen TikToks before, but apparently there's like a for you page where it just keeps showing you new stuff automatically. Um, I think that's really bad for your brain. And then the other part of that, I think, I don't know. It just, I guess this is like TikTok is like the tip of the iceberg, but like the amount of attention that like women get on social media, I don't think is healthy either. Like the amount of free attention that you can get as a girl, um, I don't think that's good for society because I don't want to say like it makes you think you're more important than you are, but that's basically what it boils down to.
That's 100% what it is, because in the end, you're not important at all.
Yeah, and then
You're just another
I think
person.
that like will ultimately cause like mental health stuff too, because like you get all this attention from everybody on Instagram or TikTok or whatever, and then when that attention goes away, where are you
Yeah, we've
at?
talked about this before. There
Yeah, yeah.
there will 100% at some point be a point in your life where that disappears and is completely gone.
I think my position on it is like I would be. I mean, depending on the nature of the attention or whatever, I'd be disappointed to see my daughter do that. But if you're a young woman and you understand that like the attention's only due to the fact that you're the youngest, hottest thing on the block right now, and you're gonna abuse that while you can, sort of thing, then like, hats off to you. But if
Yeah,
you
I think that's a dangerous game to play though,
if you
because
if you engage with like the false reality, it's like the One Ring. Like if you can kind of like toy with it a little bit and you know bend it to do your will, maybe it'll work, but it's gonna suck you in, you know?
yeah, but I think that problem is like so widespread, like to like an insane level. But I guess I mean society thinks it's normal. Yeah, society thinks it's normal, but I think it's deleterious outcome. So, those are my big ones that I can think of like without having to really settle in for
It's
it deep.
also, as long as there's someone that will consume that, then there's always a reason to do it.
Oh no, I mean
You
that's just
know,
it's just like human nature.
like
It's
it's
like
just half of the issue.
yeah,
Yeah.
like it's just like like the laziness we mentioned earlier. Like it's just like it's the human nature of like women to be like the I don't know. I don't want to say this
Hmm.
like in a misogynistic way, but like they're like the most prized element of society because without women we can't make more people. So women are like the ultimate uh whatever, the ultimate human resource, I suppose. And we're just there to make sure make sure they make it through, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, I think that's kind of how it's been even like in the Bible, but it was more so of like there's admiration of that, but then the womanly virtue is not to like bask and be egotistical sort of thing.
Yeah,
Kind
because
of
I mean,
like
you as a woman, like you're holding the cards in most. I think most situations like that.
yeah. Well, like the manly virtue is to like be the best, but not like brag that you're the best in terms of like feats of strength or courage or.
Yeah, I guess in like the very idealistic form, but so like yeah, like I mean, the average dude on social media versus the average chick, like the followers has got to be at least 5 to 10 times at least. um, yeah,
I've
those are my
What does
main
recently
that look
thought
like
ones.
at the
about,
top end though? What about like the top three dudes versus the top three chicks?
I don't know. Like statistically, like I don't think it's worth observing outliers like that. For this specific thing because you can't measure the rest of the curve from those like 6 individuals. I don't think. But I know on
Well,
Twitch
I
for
think
on Twitch for example, the top 3 creators are men, but I think more women get to like a sustainable income from it, if that makes sense. A higher percentage of women.
yeah, I think it's almost always enlightening to examine the outliers or at least the upper ends of the
I mean,
where the
like it was
curves
like a
for men.
statistically like significant number, like
No,
10,000 people. I don't know if it's like worth observing like 5 in this case, but
okay, but listen to this. Have you ever heard the like Jordan Peterson argument for why there's more men in jail than women?
I don't think
Like
so.
overwhelmingly more men in jail than women. It's basically, and I'm probably gonna butcher this, but it comes down to the fact that the lines, or when you're looking at the curves of like disagreeable men and disagreeable um, women, I guess they more or less are right on top of each other, but the men are shifted slightly to the right, such that if you look at like the top 100 disagreeable men, they will always be more disagreeable than the top 100 disagreeable women. So when you're looking at like the extreme behaviors, that basically is what accounts for the slice that we see
Hmm.
in like prison when you take a snapshot of that very far to the right of
I
both
agree
of
with
the
that, but you got
curves.
to remember that's going to be like a percentage, like 1 or 2%. And like the Instagram user base, 5 users is like 0.0001% or
Yeah, but
something.
there's this what I'm saying is you make a good point. I was just simply
Okay,
asking
yeah,
about the
yeah.
outliers
No,
because there's
that
this
makes
like
sense.
80-20 rule where
That's
the
like a
top
that's
20% are
a
going to
like a
have the 80% of the
statistically
resources.
significant outlier. That's like it's called a fat tail, I think is what it's called. What you just mentioned.
Gotcha. Yeah.
But
Basically, it's like the phenomenon you observe when there's two like comparable data sets that are right on top of each other, but one's just shifted a little bit over,
mhm.
such that when you take that far right or far left snapshot, it's going to be dominated by one and not the other.
Also, testosterone's a hell of a drug. That's why there's more dudes in jail.
Yeah. I mean, that's what it
Yeah.
is. But like increasingly, again, it's becoming more normal in society to disregard the differences between the sexes and between the genders, and instead, kind of embrace this idea of like everybody's the same. And it's like, no, clearly not.
Clearly, I'm more based than everybody, so therefore I deserve more
pH
attention.
level 15.
Let me try to think of any other. I mean, like at any given point.
I've another good one for like
Okay.
detrimental things that are accepted in society, and this is one that's gonna be hard to change, I think, because all right, there's this idea of like if you look at how our food is produced, it's like pretty shitty. Like the agriculture processes, result in crops that don't have the full spectrum of nutrients that they used to have because the soil shit and the animals are eating those crops that they don't have the same amount of like nutritional value that you would get from something that's like grass fed, grass finished, or wild. So, the problem here is that if we make food more expensive, well, then all of a sudden, like the impoverished are gonna feel that really hard. But what I think is that it's kind of fucked up how currently food is, basically decreasing in nutritional value in terms of, just basically on a per mass basis, like per gram, per pound, whatever. And yet it's like the same price, and the companies are looking to cut costs, and yeah, I don't know. I just don't think it's good. But I don't know if increasing research into that or basically increasing the amount of money it's going to cost would be a good solution to increase the quality, because then the bottom are going to feel it hard.
Yeah, I honestly don't know enough about the issue to like speak on it fully, but um, I I think part of it's like a cultural thing too. Like rewind like 150 or not even 150, like 100 years in the past. Like you don't have like a supermarket. You have like your local mom and pop shop that has like stuff from around
Yeah.
that was probably grown by a local farm. Like now, everything is like relatively mass produced and it's just all there in the grocery store. I think like there's like a cultural element too that kind of lends itself to like that mass produced food system that you mentioned. Because
Also,
like
Tom, you might be able to get some insight on this. How cheap is it to like buy a cow versus, going to
Oh,
the store for ground
I
beef
already
every
know
now
where
and
you're
again?
going with this because that's what we do is we buy the cows in whole and have them butchered. And I mean, given it's all various different cuts of meat, ground beef, whatever you want to get out of it for steaks, roasts, however, the volume versus just going and buying the same amount of pounds from the grocery store, you're looking at $1.50 per pound, $2 per pound of everything versus going to the grocery store and buying like a pound of beef for like $3 or paying $35 for a T-bone or porterhouse from the butcher shop in whatever store you go to. And it's super cost effective to be able to just buy the whole cow at once, given just a bigger, it's just a larger amount of money there at the beginning, but it saves you so much in the long run. You just have to be able to consume it within a year or so. But if you could do that, that's totally the way to go.
Or preserve it.
We ended up taking because we got 3 cows done. So we had, what was it, like 120 pounds of ground beef. Well, we took 40 in and got like snack sticks made, which that's actually quite expensive to make, but I'm, I'm not going to eat 120 pounds of ground beef in 3 years, let alone 1 year.
yeah, I
So
think I go through like maybe a pound a week, so that's like 50 pounds.
yeah,
120 is ridiculous.
What you might have been able to do is, instead of getting it ground, if you would have just, I don't know what parts if you just got all the trimmings ground or whatever. But if any of it was like sizable chunks, you might have been able to like dry age it and keep it for a bit longer.
And you can do that, but it's the
What I'm
same thing. You still
thinking,
have to eat it because you're gonna
yeah,
be able to freeze it for longer than you're gonna be able to dry cure it and keep it for
what I'm
anyhow.
what I'm thinking, Tom, is what you did in like today's day and age where we have abundance and you obviously make enough money to get snack sticks made instead of like really bunkering down and saving your resources. That's a perfectly fine decision, but I think people should be aware of these things and try to orient themselves in life to where they can achieve essentially a living situation where if shit hits the fan, they have, at least a garden, and preferably what I'm arguing for is a food forest instead of a
Yeah.
lawn, but something they can go out and get their, vegetables and basically nutrients from the earth that you would get from plants, and then, have connections with local farmers, local butchers, such that you can get meat in bulk, know how to preserve it, make it last long, or have a
Yeah.
freezer that's running on.
On that subject with like the preserving it and curing it, a good friend of mine, uh, they're where are they from? They're Serbian. I forget where they were from, but his father is a butcher, and they cure all their own meat. They do mostly like pork though. I don't think they've done beef that I could recall. But just recently I brought a 2 pound slab of cured smoked bacon, just a half slab of bacon to work for the guys to try, and everyone, they were like, this is awesome, this is amazing. And they can't resell it because like you can't sell something like that
You get
because of
like
the
a
way it's
license or
preserved with
something.
salt.
Oh,
You can't just preserve things like that anymore as far as meats because the FDA is like, nah,
Well,
you
all
can't do
right, but
that.
but basically, I don't give a fuck what the FDA is saying if
Yeah, no,
I'm if I'm
I
just gonna
understand
be
that.
eating
But
it. Like
like
it,
the
if it's
kibasi bow, you could get that kibasi and like the taste is one thing. Like I understand that kind of situation. Taste doesn't really need to matter, but it tastes so good. And like you could chop it up or whatever, sit on your counter, and then 2 months later go and eat it, and it's still good. It's not bad, even though it hasn't been refrigerated. It just doesn't go bad that quick,
yeah, but
and it's just as good as it was before.
the
And
thing
being
is
able to
too,
know
Tom.
something like that would be pretty good.
Exactly. And about the taste, no, taste should matter, dude, because all these things that you are talking about that you can get into, like, smoking meats and cured meats and
Yeah,
brewing craft beers and, gardening and all this like dad stuff are these skills that are really fulfilling when you go out there, even when you're going out there and chopping wood, dude, like that tickles that man part in your brain where you're doing something physical, you're seeing the progress done, and you're getting work done, and that's something that's productive to
yeah.
maintaining a homestead that you're able to tend the land, and maybe if you have the ecosystem set up perfectly, you don't really have to do too much tending outside your actual like garden that you're cultivating, but tend the land, you get the fruits that it bears, and you can live off that if you need to. But if we still have, supply chain disruptions, I think those are going to be like increasingly important things to have like in the back of your mind to kind of like work towards establishing.
I mean, that would be super fulfilling. And then like going out to your garden that you've taken care of yourself the entire time, and then you go and you finally harvest your sweet corn or your, I don't know, acorn squash, whatever you decided to grow.
Yeah, if you get started early, I think fruit trees typically start to bear after like 5 years. But
yeah. Just make sure you have the right farming level.
yeah, but if you're gonna be in the same place for a while, like fruit trees are
I mean, you have
really
to be in
good.
the right environment though. Like I can't grow an orange tree like in Columbus, Ohio.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That I mean
In Florida
that's
though,
all
my uncle actually has a papaya tree in his backyard that he.
for real.
Yep.
That's awesome.
But the other problem with like fruit trees is that you get all of it at once. You don't
Yeah.
get it like.
Yeah, but Aaron, again, there's preserving techniques that you can use to can these things and make them last forever. And like,
Well,
yeah, it's not a
specifically,
fresh apple, but
yeah. I mean,
it's calories
depends
and it's in
on
your
like
pantry.
how, yeah, how you want to do it. But like specifically for Thai food, like the papaya needs to be fresh. So, but
Yeah, and
I mean, it's like subjective. I mean, obviously, yeah.
but
There's so many different ways you could do it. Yeah,
but
I agree with that.
also look back at like human history where there's these like great feasts and festivals surrounding like big harvests because people are giving thanks for this thing that comes, once a year, maybe twice a year, depending on if you have a few crops or whatnot. And it's like, then you preserve the rest of the food and you kind of eat subpar, if you want to call it that, for the rest of the season until it comes around again. And then everyone's super happy and joyous and gives thanks and dances. And we see that in like every culture ever until like recently. Where it's just been in
Now we
abundance.
can dance on TikTok every single day and eat to our heart's desire every single day. That's totally healthy, right?
While sitting down.
Exactly.
While sitting down and yeah. Oh, I thought of
And
another
so,
one.
can I address the sitting down thing real quick?
Yes.
Just a real quick aside on that. I think with sitting down, you don't even have to be like some hippie at a standing desk all day. As long as you're aware that sitting down is deleterious and you're making efforts to get up during the day, doing Pomodoro breaks if you're that autistic, but just at least getting up and walking around every now and again, and then compensating for it, at the end of the day by sitting down with a foam roller and really like being honest with yourself, like, okay, what hurts? Why do I think it's hurting? How can I address it? And then like, give 20 minutes with a foam roller, lacrosse ball, massage gun, whatever. Try to address those problems, and then you should be good. I mean, like maybe I'm young and naive, but
I mean,
you
like,
know,
yeah, we're like athletes though. We know about that. I think the average person, we're like, why, like, spend 20 minutes, like, what the fuck, like that. I don't think the average person is gonna,
yeah, but
do that.
you gotta increase the knowledge, and yeah, I don't know. That I think we should maybe strive to what's the word I'm looking for? Increase the value of the definition of quote average person unquote.
Good luck. But my next one that I thought of, I was actually talking to Brian about this when we went out to dinner a couple weeks ago. Um, so like people don't want to have kids anymore for like various reasons. Either like career chasing, or they wait later and later to marry, or like they replace like having kids with getting a pet. Um, I think
Or
that's
feel like they're just doomed because of
yeah, or feel like
society.
they don't want to bring a kid into this world. There's like a
Yeah.
multitude of things, but the I know for a fact like the every like first world power country's birth rate is declining. I think in Japan it's going negative, and I think if we don't do we as in the United States aren't proactive about um, having more kids, that our birth rate will go negative in the next like 20, 30 years or so. Um, but yeah, I think that's super super bad for us, because if you're not growing, you're shrinking ultimately.
Yeah.
I mean, the way I see it, I'm gonna try to have as many kids as the good Lord gives me the resources to support.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Um, yeah, it's just it's just like mind blowing. And then it's funny because I was talking to Brian about this, and this lady was like behind us getting soda or whatever, and she said, "Oh, I couldn't help but overhearing like a snippet of your conversation. Like my pets are like my babies. Like I love them so much." I this was kind of a rude move for me. I asked her like, "Do you have any like kids?" And she was like, "No." I was like, "Well,
That is why.
that's why they're your kids, because you don't have real kids." But yeah, that I think that's like a big one that's kind of I've been thinking about lately.
Yeah,
Here's a question for Bo. Future. Public school, homeschool.
dude, I used to be a big public school guy, but fucking, if I have the ability to like homeschool my kids, I'm gonna do that. And I'm gonna like give it my all and get
I
Like
super
might
into it.
too.
you've never talked about that before. I've never asked you that, but
I
just
think
from
I've
knowing
talked
who
about
you
it.
are, that's what I thought you were going to say.
Yeah, I want to get them involved in as many like extracurricular clubs and shit as I can,
Yeah.
so they're not like weird and like sheltered, but like
Yeah.
homeschool all the way. Cause I
It's
just
just,
like
yeah, the
there's so
education
much
system
shit
is
that you
sus.
learn. There's so much shit that you learn that's useless, and there's so much like useful shit that you don't learn that you should learn.
And also like I feel like the quality of the average teacher is like it's decreased for whatever reason.
Cause they're younger. Like I think the teacher force is like retiring.
Maybe. I That's one thing Like I know a lot about why people aren't having kids. I don't know a lot about why the K through 12 education system is like becoming so bad. I know why college is bad. And we had, I think that was episode 3 of the podcast. I had my little monologue about that. So,
Yeah, we had a good discussion about that.
I mean, God bless the teachers because, like, that's got to be a
Someone's
really,
got to do it.
it's a really hard job.
I wouldn't want to be the person doing
I
it.
mean, basically, like, K through, like, 5, you're like a babysitter with extra steps.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
let's be realistic. So,
And then like 6 through 9, you're
you're
a
like a
babysitter
parole
with a few
officer
more
with extra
steps than
steps.
before. No, that's
Parole
like
officer.
9 through
Oh,
12
yeah,
is
you're
the
right, Tom.
parole
You're right. 9
officer.
through 12 is parole officer.
Dude,
Yeah.
I could see myself doing high school education. That'd be fun as fuck.
There's two personalities you have to pick from to be a high school teacher, and the one is to not care whatsoever and do as little as possible to earn your check
Or
without
be
being
like a
fired.
militant dick.
Or
I,
or be just
I,
a tyrant
I
for
could only do it if
45
I was
minutes.
teaching the like AP Chem or something,
But
and
see,
like
like, you're not going to
exclusively
be
that.
teaching that from the bat, though. You're going to have to, like, crawl your way out of, like, civilian chemistry and, like, earn your way up to AP Chem. Because of, like, I don't know. I think at least that's, like, when I was in school, like, a lot of the teachers wanted, like, the AP job, but the AP job was occupied by the person who's been there longer, so.
Yeah. Good thing I don't really plan on doing that.
I think I could be like history or English. I could do. I think. I don't know. Well, because you got to remember that like in the average class of 30 kids, there's gonna be like 5 or 6 that always get an A, 5 or 6 that always fail, and then out of that remaining 20, 10 are probably gonna get a C. So you're really only
Did people
teaching 10.
actually fail in your high school?
Yes.
Nobody failed in my high school, dude. I don't think so. Like, if they
Okay,
did,
well,
they
I guess
literally just
by
like
fail, I'm saying like D, like they're just totally out of it. They're getting like a D or something. That's what I mean by fail. Like,
the only people that like quote unquote failed in my high school like legitimately chose to fail. Like there was, you remember Logan that was in the server, little rat snake.
I think
Oh
so.
yeah,
he
the
he
snake rat.
almost he almost failed because he literally like wouldn't turn in an assignment that the teacher had. And like I know this teacher very well. I played beer pong with her daughter in college, and she legitimately said, I believe these were like her exact words, that she just wanted this guy and one other guy to turn something in so she could give them a D on the assignment and they could pass the class and walk at graduation. Literally anything, something on paper. She just wanted something, and then this guy chose not to turn anything
Yeah,
in.
couldn't even do that.
Yeah, and then
Yeah,
somehow he still like ended up being able to like get his diploma, but it was, I think it might still be sitting in the office at the school.
yeah. I think,
So like
or
the only
like,
people that
I guess
failed
like,
chose to fail.
yeah, adjusting my like terminology a little bit. You have like 5 or 6 that are always gonna get an A, 5 or 6 that always get like a D, 10 that are average. So you're teaching like 10 kids out of a 30 kid class usually. Like, as in teaching, as in you are elevating them above their like learning potential from your pedagogy basically. I think,
Yeah.
I mean, at least that's what I've observed in college too, because like the people that get A's are more likely to keep getting A's.
I feel like in college it's a little different. Well, actually, it's not different insofar as like the actual, I guess if you're being really stringent about the definitions and stuff. But I feel like in college there's a lot of times where the classes are so big that there's going to be students that excel kind of like parasocially. They never like directly interact with the professor, but they're just going to excel and not ever, interact with people. And then there's going to be that top percent of students that like go to all the office hours and talk to the professor and are emailing them and stuff. And in like high school you have no choice but to like interact with the teacher, sort of thing. So
Yeah.
there's no like lurkers that just like
Yeah, I guess
excel.
I forgot about like the big lecture halls because that was only like freshman year, but
Yeah, that's also
I think
true.
that's like a
You get
survival.
smaller
That's just like a
classes.
test, like if you're serious or not. Because if you're serious, you'll at least survive. I feel like, and by
Hmm.
serious I mean like, do you like it's not like an indictment of your academic ability, but serious as in like if you really want to pass, you'll find out a way to pass.
I went for 4 years and did nothing the entire time, and then decided I didn't want to do it anymore.
What, college?
Yeah,
Where'd you go?
You
up
don't
by
have to
me.
leak it if you don't want to.
Yeah, no, I
Was
wasn't going to. Up
was it
towards me.
community college?
No, it was actual university.
Oh, nice.
And like I had switched my major like 3 times, and then it was just like I'd take my classes and I'd be like, I really don't like this class. And then I would just stop going. And then I had a sociology class where the only grades you received was midterm and the final. There was nothing
Ooh,
for
a lot of
like
pressure.
attendance or anything like that. I went on the first day to get the syllabus, and then I went on the day for midterm, and I went on the day for final, and passed the class with 100%.
As it should
That
be.
was the peak of my college career for
Yeah,
It's
academics.
funny
Aaron
because
and
like
I talked.
the more I was skipped, like I started going to like less and less classes, and my grades started to be better and better. Because I learned like for me, like if I just read the book and like watch YouTube, I can usually not always, but usually learn better than going to some lecture. Um,
Yeah.
We also talked about like those Quizlet classes.
yeah, where you literally just use Quizlet for the whole class. I think there's a lot of classes like that. Probably more than 20% of all college courses are Quizletable. Probably more than 30, honestly, if we're being real. And then if you add like an online math class and Chegg, the amount of classes you can autopilot through might be higher than 50%, which is obviously might not be the greatest for your education, but education isn't about getting educated, it's about getting certified. So
Yeah,
I
in certain
had to take
scenarios.
a speech class just on public speaking, and easy peasy, whatever. And I got failed on my final for it because my speech was on firearms, and the teacher didn't like that.
that's bullshit. I hate classes
And
like
she
that.
failed me because of the subject. And
I got
it ended up getting reverted because I brought up the subject, and that my grade was pure bias on the subject.
That's
Dude,
good.
I had
Yeah.
a similar occurrence in a sociology class where we had to write this small paper about essentially it was this professor, and I looked up, like, he gave us this data, and it was about like basically schools in the Columbus area, and then like inner city schools versus like private schools versus, and then like the racial composition, and then like how much funding they received. And based on the data he gave, it was like really easy to conclude that like the basically inner city schools were like racist, and they weren't receiving enough funding or whatever. But then if you like actually look for the study, it was a study like authored by him, and if you take the full data set and run like a multivariate analysis on it, there's like no statistical correlation. So I wrote this paper, and it was the same conclusion he came to in the paper. Like literally in the paper, he's like, yeah, we couldn't really find a correlation to like say that there's anything like racially motivated going on here. But the whole rest of the class that didn't like do the digging I did wrote about how it was racially motivated, and that's essentially what he wanted you to conclude. So I wrote about how it wasn't, the same conclusion that's in the academic literature, and then wrote this beautiful essay, kind of talking about what I think the implications are. And I got like a D on the paper because the teaching assistant said it didn't like meet the rubric. I'm like, yeah, you're literally fucking retarded. I looked at the exact study that this data came from, and like used the rest of the data set and did the same statistical analysis and showed the numbers, and you're saying I'm wrong? You're saying your boss, the professor's wrong? Like, give me a break, dude.
I never had anything happen to me like that. I had so much fun in my speech class. Like, I still remember that fondly. Like, the teacher was really cool, and like, I don't know, that class was fun for me.
I wish I had a speech class in college. I had one in high school that I really enjoyed.
The only bad part was that it was at 8 a.m. That
Yeah.
sucked. I had a lot of 8 a.m.s for whatever reason, unfortunately. And then my
After like my
buddies
first
like roll
semester, I
in there
scheduled
at like
everything
11.
afternoon.
What were you saying, Tom?
So after like my first semester, I scheduled everything for afternoon.
Were you like living on campus, Tom?
No, it was like a 25-minute commute or so.
Oh yeah.
It was super, super overpriced to live on the campus. I would have liked to, but I was like, it's not worth it to me for that far of a drive, you know?
Yeah. No, it's I mean, we kind of talked about that too, with like all the bells and whistles with college. Like the more you can opt out of, the better,
Yeah.
Yeah, which
because
is
they're
not
gonna try to
how
make you
like
pay for them.
yeah, it's a flawed system if that's the winning mechanic. I'm so
I,
tired. I went lifting yesterday, then rock climbing, then I went to jujitsu for like 2.5 hours.
Dude, Aaron, once the weather fares up, do you want to do like a little weekend get together? And there's like a little rock climbing crag kind of near you that we can do some bouldering at.
I guess I'm down to try. Like, don't like estimate me at any like I'm a complete novice, so don't
Dude,
expect anything.
you know me. I'm not even if we were rolling in jujitsu, I wouldn't be judging you. I'd be trying to build you up and help you get better.
Dude, I'm actually getting like a little bit slick lately. Like I'm like getting very close to catching people and stealing
you
their
love to
moves and
hear it.
stuff.
That's good. Does anyone know when the weather is supposed to be like actually decent? Because I was looking at the national radar, and I'm
April,
pretty sure
Yeah.
after this shit that we're
May.
dealing with, like currently, there's another big one brewing up in the Pacific Northeast right now.
Yeah, like we get this is third winter going on right now, and then we have real spring, and then after that's the pollinating. So
Yeah,
we'll get there.
I think late April we'll be safe. Is that
I I just
Yeah.
want a fair weekend.
And then after that it will just rain until it turns into snow again. So
You hate to see it. Yeah, tomorrow's 50, 50, 60, 60, 50. Rain. Oh, it's supposed to rain all this week. Yeah, yeah, we're
Yeah, and then
uh
there's another one coming through. I'm pretty sure. Because I was looking, I'm trying to get outside and do some outdoor bouldering before I go to Yosemite. And I wanted to go up to Mad River and Dayton, and they're getting the same stuff we are. And then I looked at the one I was just telling you about in Columbus. You guys are getting the same stuff we are. It's like the whole, I'd have to go somewhere really far away to avoid the storms. It's just not in the cards for a weekend trip.
what I want to do, I want to like throw a football around. I miss doing that. That was fun. Or like a baseball. I just want to like play catch and like talk shop. It's basically like this same conversation except we're throwing a football also. That's what I want
Dude,
to do.
have you ever done slacklining? Well, actually, dude, really climbing's like that, where you're just like talking between bouldering attempts. But anyway, have you ever tried slacklining?
I have not.
Dude, that's pretty fun too. Kind of gives me like the football throwing vibes.
Hmm.
I meant
Group
to ask you
outdoor
too, Aaron.
activities.
What's up, Tom?
Have you looked any more into like the possibility of being a homeowner?
Yeah, I mean I've been looking, but then I don't know. It's just like it's gonna cost like yeah. I mean I'm still leaning towards it. Yeah. But like that whole process is kind of like stressful for some reason.
Daunting.
And it's like I gotta like figure out my career situation because I feel like
Yeah.
if I'm buying a home, I'm saying I'm not moving like for the next or like let me phrase this better. I am planning to not move for at least the next 3 to 5 years, which
Yeah.
I don't know if I want to say that yet. But when I can comfortably like wake up in the morning and say that, I think that's when I'll start seriously shopping, house shopping.
Yeah. It's you have to be at the right point, otherwise you're torn between having, say you've been at a job for 5 years or whatever, where the loan officer in your mortgage company is going to be like, well, they've been there for a while, so it's pretty stable, versus like
Hmm.
if you go and switch jobs and then decide to do it, they're like, well, How do you know you like this? How do you know it's gonna last? You know,
Yeah, and
the
also
whole
like
spiel.
when you buy a house, like I have to populate the house with stuff,
Yeah.
right? Like, and like I was like doing home gym shopping. That's gonna cost like minimum 4 grand, like minimum 4 grand, and then like that's not even counting like couches, beds, tables. Like so when I move into the house, not only do I have to buy the house, I'm probably gonna be spending like 15 grand on just like filling the house with stuff too.
Just be super minimalist with it. You know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, I mean, but
Minimalist.
still, like, even just like
And
a
just have a
couch is like
couch
a
with a
couple
TV on the
grand,
floor
right?
and a mattress on the floor. You just
Yeah, no,
buy a
I mean, like,
couch off
I have like
Facebook
a bed, but
Marketplace.
like, I want to like have the guest bedroom have a bed and stuff. So I don't know. We'll see. That's kind of what I'm thinking of. I just want to be in all the way.
Yeah.
I'm like leaning towards that right now, but I'm not in if that makes sense.
Yeah. It's money to spend, but we thought it was pretty fun furnishing our
No, like
house.
I mean, no,
You
it's not
know,
like it's
like
gonna be
it's
fun.
so
It's
exciting.
I get you got to invest in what you buy. So, because I mean, like even when I moved out of my parents' house to my apartment, I spent like an extra 3 to 4 grand just like sprucing it up and
Yeah.
like
And
making it
then
livable for me.
have another 2 to 3 aside when you realize that you need something
Or
that you
like
never
the
in your life
furnace
thought
is
you
like,
would need.
yeah, or the pipes or blah blah blah. Yeah.
And you're like, wow,
Oh yeah,
I
I
need
gotta buy a
a
lawnmower. I gotta
turkey
yeah, I need
baster. And
yeah.
you're like, I never thought I would need a turkey baster.
Dude, a couple of Thanksgivings ago, my dad made this like southern fried turkey. Oh my goodness, it was so good.
That sounds good. I've never had it.
Um, like the seasoning on that thing, oh, it came out of the fryer like a medium bright reddish color. Oh my goodness, it
Yeah.
was such a good turkey, man. But only like me and my
So
dad liked it. my,
Well, I
the
guess
rest of
that's
my
just more
family,
for you.
yeah, the rest of my family did not like that. But this
so Aaron, it's over a little bit east of Newark is where this little
Nurk,
climbing crag is.
gotcha.
It's on Marne Road.
What is it? Like a little climbing event, you said?
No, it's a crag. It's
It's a
like there's
rock.
rocks there. Yeah.
Oh,
You have
the
a crash
rock
pad?
itself.
Yeah, I have a crash pad and a bunch of like
But I was
couch
gonna stick his
cushions.
arms out to catch you. That's a crash pad.
No, you spot by like if someone falls basically, you just try to get like if it's like a traverse where they're moving like horizontally a lot, you move the crash pad with them so they fall on the crash pad obviously. But then also when they fall, you want to give them a shove onto the crash pad, trying to hit their shoulders such that their head isn't the first point of contact on the ground. And you want to try to also, if there's any like rocks nearby, push them away from the rocks so their head doesn't smack the rock.
Yeah, that makes
So
sense.
there's like a little bit of a strategy to spotting and crash pad utilization, but it's easy to learn. But no, bouldering is a good time. You kind of like it helps probably to bring like a lawn chair or something and some snacks
Some
and maybe
beers.
some music. Yeah, beers are definitely usually beers are like right after you climb. You pop a beer, but I mean
Not the
I
way
don't
I
see the
climb.
I don't see the harm in drinking beer like during climbing.
It's like the drunken master, but with climbing.
Climbing is an inherently dangerous sport.
So is drinking.
It's like being an artist. You have to die, and then people recognize what you did.
Yeah. I kind of
No,
want to
but
go
the
fishing too. I haven't been fishing in a fat minute. Just bring like a 6 pack of like Coors Light and just sip on it and try to catch some bass or something.
And then fall off a 1,000 meter high cliff. And then make a name for yourself by doing so.
Yeah. Nah, I'm getting a name from this podcast when we have 1 million viewers in 10 years. Or listeners, I guess.
Possibility. It's always a possibility.
how long in the tooth are we?
1 hour, 4 minutes, 17 seconds.
Mm,
Been
could
that
end it
long?
here or keep it going.
Oh, like it's been like 15 minutes.
It's
Yeah.
been at least
I
15
like
minutes, I'd
usually
say.
like if I'm in the flow state of conversation, I have like a lot of fun making these podcasts and it makes me like articulate my thoughts in a little more rigorous way than I do when I'm just like talking.
Yeah. Do we
I
have
mean,
any other?
we typically have pretty constructive conversation.
Yeah, I mean, like me and Tom have like good rapport too, and me and Bo have good rapport, so it's kind of
Yeah, but me and Tom don't have
pretty
good
natural to
rapport.
keep the conversation flowing.
Yeah, Bo and I don't.
Yeah.
It's one sided. I'm right, he's wrong.
So it kind of, instead of looking like a triangle, it kind of looks like a V. That's what our rapport looks like.
Oh
But
yeah,
we can
Bo.
establish
So,
rapport.
like last week, how my neck was hurting.
Yeah.
At open mat this week, I got put in a choke and it like cracked my neck the right way, and it feels great now.
Nice, dude.
I got put in like a darts choke and I heard, and
Dude,
now my neck feels good.
I feel like I've gotten pretty good at like self chiropractic, where like I know where my back or neck needs to crack, and then I like get on a chair or on a foam roller or something, and like twist the right way to make it happen.
I have yet to master that technique.
Maybe it's a wrestling thing, so maybe you'll get good at it.
Maybe.
I need to figure that out because I'm just at that point where I wake up, I'm like, oh cool, my back hurts today. And then I go
You
to
need to
bed,
do
I'm
what
like,
I was
cool, my
saying
back
about
still
the
hurts.
like because you sit in the like machine all day, right?
Not. I've been trying my best to keep away from having to do that
All
when
right. Well,
possible, and it's been working out pretty good.
I mean, either way, what I think might help you, Tom, is just listening to all right, what hurts, and then like getting you a few like foam rollers or massage guns or something to address those issues, and just like again, take 20 minutes every day or something like that. And
Don't even take 20. Take like 5 minutes, and you'll probably
I don't
get the
want to
80
prevent.
20
I just want to
80 20
cure. Is
dose.
there a pill?
Yes, it's called
yeah,
Spare back and body.
tramadol.
OxyContin. And
We'll
from
get you a
apparently from
Medrol dose back.
where you are located, there used to be a very large amount of that going around.
Oh yeah.
Dude, I saw this funny post. It was on like r/trashy. It was his birthday cake where this guy like the top of the cake was like pills, and then the wrapper around the cake said like oxycodone, acetaminophen, 50 milligram,
Jeez.
Percocet, Bayer Pharmaceuticals, whatever. So it was like an open pill bottle with Percocets coming out the top.
Yeah, honestly, they just need to make weed legal for everybody. Actually, I didn't say that YouTube. I was kidding.
Well, funnily enough, I think the House just moved a bill to the
I
Senate
think that was an
floor.
April Fool's joke.
Oh, really? Damn. Well,
I didn't fact check it,
I got. I
but
didn't
I
fact
think it
check it
was.
either.
I mean, anything that happened yesterday, I think is an April Fool's joke.
Yeah, dude. That fucking holiday sucks because then I just get trolled for. So I
Oh
don't know what to
wait,
believe.
no, that's real. It's on. I just checked CNN. That's a real thing. It's not April Fool's. I thought it was
All
April
right.
Fool's.
So I'm not a retard, but apparently it
Wait,
faces
what
an
was
uphill
it?
battle in the Senate floor.
The House voted to federally decriminalize marijuana yesterday.
Oh,
And I think they also voted to cap insulin prices.
Yes, I think that's a good thing, right?
at what?
Thirty-five
I
What it's
don't know.
dollars.
currently
I
priced
haven't done
at?
my research.
$35 a vial, I think.
That's gonna piss somebody off.
It's gonna piss a pharma bro off. I remember when
Pharma bro.
do you guys know who Martin Shkreli is?
Dude, I'll tell you exactly why he
I do
did what
not.
you're just about to say he did. As per
Wait,
him.
I think what you think I'm gonna say is not what you think. What is not what I'm actually gonna say. But go ahead. Go
Okay.
ahead.
So he bought the patents to, in his words, like a bad and obscure medication whose side effects were worse than the disease that it cured, and then he basically artificially inflated the price such that, in his words, nobody would buy it, so that people would come in and innovate a better drug. And he said that if anybody seriously wanted the drug and wrote him and said that they wanted the drug, they would have shipped him the drug for free.
Okay, yeah, no, that's totally not what I was gonna say. He had a secret Wu-Tang Clan album that they only made one of, and he's the only one that heard it. And he said when he was gonna release it, but he never did. So he's a piece of shit for that.
No, but I think most people think he's a piece of shit for the thing that I
And
said.
that other stuff, that's just frosting on the cake. Like oh sure,
Percocet
that's that, but
frosting on the cake.
the whatever you just said, and then But the Wu-Tang Clan, that could have changed the world. That could have been like the next big rap album that's just like an eternal classic, but no. And then I think when he got arrested, they sold it, or somebody, an anonymous buyer, bought it at auction. So
Mhm.
we will never hear the secret Wu-Tang album, most likely.
So upsetting.
But actually, that Martin Shkreli dude is smart as fuck. Like when you hear him talk, he's a really smart dude, even though he's like pretty
He's like a memer. He's
pretty
like a
jerky.
4chaner.
Um, Also, but did you hear this? I did like a deep dive on him a couple years ago for some reason, but he like seduced like the female journalist that was covering his arrest and like trial, and like they're like dating and he's in jail. Did you know that?
I think I did hear that.
Which is pretty crazy. Like it's just a weird story all around. But
I
it's
watched
funny,
like
like
a mini YouTube documentary on him once.
people like that, like they're so smart they could actually do good for the world, but they just choose not to, I guess. Imagine like a journalist is trying to like paint you in a bad light, and then you like end up like making her fall in love with you.
Well, honestly, I forget the YouTube doc that I watched on him, but if I
Oh.
recall correctly, in the YouTube documentary, he actually exposes like there's a lot of entities within the like securities game that basically bet against biotech companies even when their like product is like promising and would be like a boon to humanity, and then they crush these companies and profit off of it essentially.
Yeah.
So he like he doesn't do that, and him bringing light to that I think is a good thing, but again I don't quite remember the fine details. But I think biotech innovation should be like a big priority. Like I think the Asian countries are kind of beating our ass in terms of biotech and technical innovation in general.
I think we have technology and software at least, but I don't know about any of the other industries, to be honest. I don't, or at least I don't know enough about to like formulate our opinion about it.
We have American pharmacy giants too, but it's I don't know. I think any kind of innovation should really be kind of like applauded by like biotech startups. And
Anything we do ourselves too is just going to be way too expensive versus waiting for someone else to do it
Yeah,
and then
but I
just getting
think
it
at
from
some
them.
point we're gonna have to start eating that cost, because what if we get in like a Russia situation where we just can't depend on that that entity anymore? Then we're totally screwed.
Oh
So
yeah, no, we are.
we
exactly.
pay more upfront to avoid catastrophic loss later.
And then we come full circle to my original argument for the kind of self-sustainable plan B.
You can self-sustain. I'm trying to consume as much as possible and live like a king, because I'm living in the richest country ever, like the most technology like innovative time ever. So you can live in your forest, and I'm gonna be living in my mansion.
I'll be living in my bunker.
Actually, I'll be living in Tom's bunker. I'll be paying him
Wait,
I
rent.
don't
hold
think like
on. No, you can't go back on that.
realistically, I don't think you like technically have to have a food forest to be like protected against catastrophe essentially, but like I listened to a podcast recently where this guy was talking about basically it was like I don't know, it was 5, 6, 4, 7 things that he believed were like the tenets of like and I don't even know what
Liver
the
King
term
and
he
the nine
used
ancestral
was.
tenets. Is that what you're talking
No,
about?
it was basically like security, defense, like
Oh,
food, like just these like core structures of things that you need to be like independent in a way if shit hits the fan.
I want the
And
American tenets. I want all that, but I also want my football. I want my beer. I want my big ass truck, and I want like to eat like Twinkies and shit. That's the American tenets.
yeah, I
Aaron
just don't
just
think those are
doxed me
sustainable.
exactly like to the T. What?
Dude, like we got to stop thinking small about like basic survival. America's always about being prosperous and like enjoying life, I think, and like creating the best life for yourself. Like Surviving that's not how America works. We thrive. We
We don't
prosper here.
survive, we thrive.
We eat steak every day because we're the best country in the world.
Okay. And I'm making the argument that
And
if you
because we
want
buy
something
cows
done
by the
right,
entire cow, not just
if
from
you
a
if you
steak from
want
the
something
store.
done right, you do it yourself. So the best way to make sure that like all your food is this is in the colloquial sense, but kosher. Uh, you do it yourself. You get as close to whoever's producing it as you can. You don't rely on this like silver platter processed bullshit. So I think that you're conflating my idea with like some kind of primitive like backwoods survival where in
Yeah, I'm
reality
kind of just
I'm
like messing with you. Like I agree with what you're saying, but
like I'm imagining like a literal Garden of Eden where you're like the quintessence of thriving, if you get my drift. And obviously this
I
is
don't
gonna
know. I
be
think that's a bit idealistic,
well,
but
all right. Obviously this is gonna be integrated into like modern standards. Like I'm not arguing like there's a fine balance of like kind of ancestral tenets and modern living. Like there's things that would just be foolish to go without. I think electricity is something that you should probably just like have electricity until maybe some catastrophe happens where you don't have electricity for a time. But while you can have electricity, why not have electricity? But you should also realize that electricity isn't something that just like is a God-given right to you, and it can and will go out at some point. So you should have a plan B, whether that's a generator or just like protocols for when electricity's out for a while. Like what would you do honestly if electricity was just out for the next 3 months, Aaron? How would you go about your life?
I'd go turn
All
I don't know.
electricity, like within like 100 square miles, all electricity is just out. 3 months. Where do you get your water?
I
your
mean,
outdoor
I guess
generator runs
the
off the
Olentangy
gas.
River, but that shit is brown. I don't know. Where I
Then
mean,
how do you
like, where
purify
would
it?
you get your water if yours was that way? Are you prepared
I
to
have
go 3 months without
I know I'm
electricity?
not nearly as prepared as I should
Okay.
be, but I have a creek in my backyard. I guess there's small game to hunt back there.
I
And you
mean,
have a supply of
We
life
have
straws.
let's be
we have a
real though.
garden.
If that's a problem we're having, there's some other huge problems that are like happening at the
Exactly. There
same
are other
time.
huge problems, and
Like
that's why this guy said there were like 6 or 7 tenants. Like, in the big one, that he said the biggest one is community. He said when if electricity were to go out, essentially your world is shrunk down to like 2 miles in every direction. Everything beyond that doesn't really exist for you because you're not communicating with these people. It doesn't matter what's going on in New York, right? You're concerned about the people around you in your community. So community is the biggest one. But then there's like the obvious like lower down on the what's it called? Is it Pavlov's scale of like
yeah.
human? Yeah. So like
No, no,
the
it's Maslow.
Maslow's hierarchy. Yeah. So the lower ones down in the hierarchy, like food and shelter and stuff. But I just think people should think about that, dude. Like, what if shit hits the fan? We just saw shit hit the fan with COVID and supply chain disruptions. Inflation's happening right now. Texas lost power for a shit load of time. Like, this all happened within like 2 years, and that may seem like a really long time, but in like the whole span of like everything, like 2 years is pretty really. It's like snap of a finger, blink of an eye, and we saw all this stuff happen. So I think it's just like useful to keep it in the back of your mind.
Yeah, I mean, my current living situation, I can't really do anything about that, so I'm gonna have to trust society for
Yeah.
now.
I
But you,
watched
you
a
were already talking
show.
about getting a home, and
Yeah,
so that's something
I
you can
mean,
think
like when
about.
I do that, I'll definitely look into that kind of thing.
I watched a show. I forget what it was on. I want to say Netflix, but it was let me see if I can get the name of it real quick. But what it was oh, it was called Preppers. Duh. Um like the people prepping in different situations, and a few of them were actually in large cities, and one of them was New York City. And air quote the professional preppers would follow these people and like look at their routine, look at like what their plan is, what A, B, C, D escape routes under the circuit, under whatever they feel is what's going to cause the world to fall apart. Whether it was like there were some that like uh bio wars and nuclear attacks and like all this stuff. One of them was zombies, by the way, too, but that one I just kind of laughed
Yeah.
off. But like the ones that were in the city were actually kind of interesting to see how these people thought
Well, the thing is,
and what
dude,
they put together over the course of 5-6 years.
the
And like
thing is,
hid little stashes like in the city,
yeah, dude, I'm so glad you brought that up, especially the zombie example, because like the word prepper is like so stigmatized and like people think they're crazy, but in reality, I think anticipating the future, like hedging against the future, is like literally what people do when they're investing. So it just depends what you're prepping for. Like if you're prepping for a zombie attack, I think it's rightful that we should be able to laugh at you. If you're prepping for a hurricane and you live in, Oklahoma, again, I think we should be able to laugh at you. But if you're prepping for like reasonable, future outcomes and you're not letting it like dominate your life to where you're this like, you know, um nervous, like anxious, neurotic mess, then it's like a perfectly reasonable thing that you should do.
Yeah.
What about liquor? I think having a stockpile of liquor is probably important too, because
Feel like that's
that's
super
probably worth
valuable.
like that could be like a currency in the post-apocalyptic society.
Well, I mean, I don't think it was uncommon back in the day for people to have like big root cellars with, wines and preserves and
So if you were stuck on a desert island, like what three things would you take with you?
I'm this will be an uneducated response if I give a response. I haven't like researched this question, but maybe
Anything
a
or
water
like basic
filtration.
supplies.
Anything, anything, literally anything, except like something that would get you off the island, I guess.
Oh, damn, I was about to say helicopter.
Yeah. I would pick Bo said water filtration. That's number one. Because you also have to say whether or not it's like an island in the ocean or like
It's like the island in Castaway, like that island.
I'd
okay,
It
say
has like four
water
people.
water
filtration.
filtration and then like probably two tools that have like a very wide amount of uses, including but not limited to making shelter, fire, and fishing rod.
So I mean,
A
is that three things? So that sounds like more than three things.
No,
I
it'd be
would
like an
pick
axe and
a
a knife.
bow,
It'd be like
just
water
a bow
filtration
by
axe
itself.
knife or something.
A bow by itself. You can make arrows.
And
And
then
I
a
assume
knife or an
having arrows
axe.
as well counts for more than one item. I would pick a bow, a flint fire starter, and then the third one is kind of up in there between a few different things. I'd have to think about the third item.
Water filtration. You have to have water filtration
I'm gonna
on
bring.
a like ocean island.
Yes or no, but I don't really think you could. I don't. I mean, I'm not educated on this enough, but I don't think you could filter salt water enough to be able to
Then you'd have
make
to
it
have a water
practical,
trap
other
of some
than
sort.
like doing the simple thing where you put a bowl of water or whatever on the ground and then wrap cellophane over top of it and let
Let it drip.
the sun do the work and create, start evaporating. It collects on the cellophane and then there's fresh non-salt water there. But
I'm gonna bring a
food wise,
volleyball. I'm
no.
gonna bring stuff to make s'mores. So like a fire starter and like s'more
You're already at
ingredients.
3 items with the s'more
Another
stuff.
another thing that I want to bring up, just considering like that you're looking for a house, Aaron, and kind of what people consider nowadays versus what people considered back in the day, is like you would never see a settlement that wasn't by a body of water back in the day, and nowadays it's like no one considers that when they're buying a house.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know.
But you can also look
That
at water
severely limits my
laws.
options. I will tell
No,
you that
you
right
can you
now.
can do you can do well water. So if you get a well drilled, it like apparently is advantageous in terms of like water laws, because sometimes even if you're by like a body of water, you don't have like the
Gotcha.
rights to
I
harvest
mean,
water from the
ultimately, I think
river.
this would be like an intermediate house anyway. So
Yeah, but
it wouldn't be
I
like
think it's just a
final.
point to bring up that like
Yeah,
nobody thinks about that.
because yeah, I understand that.
There's super crazy laws with wells and like the aqueducts. But
But imagine, go on, Tom.
there's also different levels you could choose too. Like, of course, it's more costly to pick a deeper well, but it's
Yeah,
more cost effective to pick one, let's say, that's 200 feet deep with I don't know, water that's not as good quality as if you had a well that was drilled to 400 feet.
Yeah, this one did it. The guy that was, or this one guy had a well that was 450 feet, and he said it churned out water every day of the year, and it was still had to filter it and stuff, but good water. What I was gonna say there is, imagine, I'd like to see a little like case study on the Flint, Michigan thing, and see like people that had natural bodies of water, like kind of how they adapted to the situation, how much better off they were than their peers that kind of maybe lived in the city and didn't have access to filterable bodies of water.
Yeah.
But something to think about.
And I mean, it changes because of the well scenario. So, like, if you're somewhere out of the way, even not even near a body of water, but have a well, that could help. But at the same time, that water could become non-potable very quick.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is why you have to do, apparently, like according to what I've heard, you have to do research on, it's like the water shelf, like where
Yeah,
it's at, like how deep it is and
that's
what's
what I meant,
feeding
by the way.
into
I
it.
don't know why I said aqueduct, but the water shelf. That's what I meant to say.
Yeah, so yeah, and you just gotta like, I think you just gotta put in the research in the beginning, and you can like establish these systems that are like good fallback options or cost cutting options, or like, I don't know. But I'm also all for like, not really abusing, I guess utilizing like the fruits of our innovative labors. Like I'm not gonna give up my cell phone or electricity or
Yeah.
anything. But when shit hits the fan and you don't have that privilege anymore, it's like, what do? Do you just like cry that you don't have it, or do
Yep.
you? Yeah, that was a
If
quick
I did
yep.
not have my phone, I would probably be happier. Like, I'm sure you've heard me say throughout the day when, like, it gets to about like 5, 6 o'clock at night, and my phone doesn't stop going off until I turn it off or put it on do not disturb for the evening when I
Yeah.
go to bed. I just was talking this morning about getting rid of Facebook because I just don't use it. I have no
Oh
need for
man,
it.
I got rid of Facebook. I mean, the only one I use now is Twitter, and like rarely.
Yeah.
I don't even have like a Reddit account or anything that I use. Like I'll lurk on Reddit. Don't interact with anyone.
It was a good idea when it first, like, Facebook, we'll use that as an example, but it was a good idea when it first came out, but it just evolved into something totally different.
I feel like Facebook, like I've gotten on Facebook a few times over the years for like one reason or another, and like I'll like scroll through the little like first few posts on the homepage. I feel like Facebook's just so like it's such a different environment than like Twitter, for example, and it's weirdly like I don't even want to say political, but like echo chambery, where like people get in their little cliques and are just like shouting at each other and either like reaffirming their beliefs or just like arguing with like another system of views, and it's just like really weird. I don't know.
Also, like, what are you gonna do? It's boring just a clout chase to the people you know. You got a clout chase to the people that just follow you that you've never met before.
Well, on Twitter it's like people like post like meaningful content or like
Mm.
memes or I don't know. It just, I've never seen it on Facebook, but I don't
Facebook
use
is
Facebook a
Lindy
lot.
Sue talking about her experience at the grocery store
Yeah, I always feel like it's,
and how they were out of cilantro lime rice.
Yeah,
yeah.
that's bullshit. Fucking supply chain. Bo, you're talking about the supply chain hasn't affected you. I haven't been able to get cilantro lime rice for like 2 months. How do you think that's made me feel?
Wait, I never said the supply chain hasn't affected me.
I brought
How did
Aaron
it
on this
affect you?
cilantro lime rice kick, and he was so excited to get it and goes to the store
I've been
and
paying
looked for
410 for
months, and they
gas.
were just out every time he went.
That sucks. Yeah, I mean, I've been paying more for gas and shit, so.
I mean, yeah, but you're not experiencing like a shortage of anything, though, are you?
I mean, I'm paying higher prices for things that there are shortages of.
It cost me $17 a day to drive to work.
I mean, if you're asking if there's anything that I'm like really hurt and like consciously missing and just in agony
I was
because
in physical pain from not getting the cilantro lime rice. Agony, severe agony.
no, I believe you. I just haven't been
Especially now that he
unfortunate
knows what
enough
it
to
tastes
have.
like.
Yeah, but
Dude,
then so the last
Chipotle
time I
has
saw it, I
cilantro
bought
lime
literally
rice.
all of them, every single one on the shelf when it was there.
See, and
Panic
you're what's
buys
wrong.
cilantro lime
That's
rice?
like the toilet paper hoarding behavior.
Yeah. Panic buy it. Might be the
I
last
thought
time
I
you
was
ever see it.
here. You're talking about you trying to build a stockpile, but it's like it's a jerk move to build a stockpile, I guess. So
No, I was just messing with you. Toilet paper is like an IRL NFT if you think about it.
I still don't understand why that was the thing we went with mass panic. It like it wasn't food. It wasn't like going getting your money out of the bank. It wasn't like going
Wiping your
buying
ass with something that you could
ammunition
do
and
with a fucking
firearms. It
washable
was
rag.
going get toilet paper by the pallet.
You can literally wipe your ass with a rag that you can wash and then wipe your ass with again.
you.
And I want to know where these people are today. I want to know the last time, if that was
I
the
think their
last
butts
time they had
clean
it.
probably. So
Yeah. Like, was that the
Or you could get
last
a
time
bidet.
they purchased toilet paper because they still have so much left? How much do they have left? Those are the questions I need answers to. Like, where are these people at today?
probably not close to a body of
They're in
water.
prison for buying too much toilet paper. They start cracking down on that towards the end.
Like the dude, I saw a meme of the one guy with just like 3 pouch toilet paper on a trailer that he was pulling behind his truck. I'm just like, where is this guy today? That's all I want to know.
You remember that guy that used to be your profile picture with like the horns?
Oh yeah, dude.
Yeah, they're cellmates.
There's
Hmm.
I saw something just recently. A bunch of people had to go to court over that whole debacle.
I see.
Somewhere out west was where they had to go to court for.
It's wherever
Oh,
you're from.
is that what it was?
Yeah,
There's a specific article I
that's
saw
what
was it was
there
out west,
was.
like Oklahoma or something. I'm like, that's a little
There
different.
was some important person from Ohio that was like, if you took place in the January 6th riots, and you're from Ohio, you will be prosecuted in Ohio. Just like making a big statement. It's like, okay, well, thanks for reminding us of the law.
Thank you. I didn't know it was still in place.
Yo, I am gonna cast my formal vote to wrap up the podcast because I'm getting hungry and my bladder is full.
Okay, I am fine with wrapping it up. If that's
What do you think, Tom?
Yeah, I'll go with that as well.
all right.
Sweet, dude. It was
So
nice having you on.
yeah,
Thank you.
thanks
Thank
for
you.
being our first guest.
I'm just spitballing with you guys.
All right, everybody. Thanks for listening to episode 10 of the Bo and Aaron podcast, and we will see you next week.
Later.
Later.